If you're watching this on GameTrailers.com, you know who Aerith is and what happened to her in Final Fantasy VII.
When Seth came flying through the sky and thrust his sword through Aerith, millions of gamers across the world had their first excuse to cry at a video game.
And everyone's mean, except for this one nice. We'll make her a girl, and we'll murder the girl. We'll just murder the girl.
It is the biggest spoiler in video game history. And I didn't care for the longest time, until I played the game for myself. Final Fantasy is one of the most beloved multi-generational game series ever made. However, I played 9 once because my dad got it for me once, and I've played through that game fully once. I was a kid. I didn't have the attention span for a multi-hour turn-based RPG. So I, for the longest time, had a rule for RPGs. If it wasn't Nintendo, it was bad. That's it. End of story. RPGs suck and Final Fantasy sucks. Hey, tip your waiters. For years, I had this mindset that I was just never going to get into Final Fantasy. Oh, how things change. What definitely didn't change the fact that I thought I was never going to play through Final Fantasy VII, let alone felt the need to, revolves around our topic today. I grew up knowing that Aerith was going to die. It's the equivalent to, and well, I can't take any chances, spoilers for Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, it's the equivalent to growing up knowing Darth Vader wasn't just some random schmuck who killed Luke's father. While the first time reactions are always neat for moments like this, I don't feel like they're a necessity, especially in these days. Maybe I've just become so numb because of leaks or other spoilers on the internet. I feel that context being very important. Any good plot twist, spoiler or happenstance should still have the impact other than the shock. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone can go ruining the surprise for everybody else, but that's what everybody's already doing in it. Point being, I knew Aerith was going to die. Growing up with these kinds of referential video game videos, essays, comedy skits, little in-jokes, it's a culture built around a moment that had the gaming world in the palm of its hand at one point. Hell, it still does have people in the palm to a degree. However, it wasn't my knowledge of the story that stopped me from playing it all this time. It was, well, the fact that I didn't give a damn about JRPGs. A story for another time, but I recently opened up my Outlook and realized that I had closed this enormous section of video games out of my heart. Come on, what else am I going to do with my life? New mindset in mind, if I was ever going to play through a turn-based JRPG, I had to make it for real. This had to be a special event. So, I played Final Fantasy XIII, because a friend asked me to, and you can learn more about that experience from Librascope's Final Fantasy XIII video here. But there's one point of that video that I wanted to show you. The battle system was a bit weird, but that was in a time where I wasn't familiar with Final Fantasy's battle systems at all. I thought it was just, I attack, and then you attack, and then I use a potion, and you use a potion, materia, I don't know, whatever. Look, in an attempt to illustrate how much I knew about the grander scheme of Final Fantasy, I name-dropped materia. A concept present only in 7. Oops. That's how vast 7's reach is. Why else would people be talking about it to this day? Why else would Cloud and Sephiroth be the poster boys of anime hair, big sword in every game ever? Why else would, years after their original release, Square Enix make that technical demo for the PlayStation 3 for the hell of it? Why else would they make good on their promise and release the actual remake project almost 15 years after that? It's just unbelievable looking back how long I've gone without playing Final Fantasy VII. Each character is memorable to the nth degree, every set piece is well paced, and the adventure is endless for players old and new. It is an ever-cherished video game, and I was a dumb idiot for not playing it years before. And I still knew that Aerith was going to die. but I didn't know the whole story. Aerith is introduced to you in such a delicate way, not unlike that of a flower. She grows much more important as the story goes on. The player finds out about her tragic backstory, her being the last Cetra, or Ancient, her mother getting the hell out of Shinra's hands, her attraction to Cloud and the love triangle she helps create, home wrecking a childhood friendship. Yeah, I went there. Tifa's my favorite. In such a short time, the first thing I didn't know popped up. Aerith is a fantastic character. I was even sort of a douchebag to Aerith in my playthrough, very much taking Tifa's side every chance I got. That jokey post that I swear I saw in a forum once. Hey guys, I'm playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time, no spoilers, but any tips?
Don't level up, Aerith.
That's what I had in mind when I started. But the more I played and the more I got to spend time with the characters, I regretted that. Not enough to switch sides again, yeah, Tifa's my favorite, but enough to really feel for her in specific moments. This party feels like a true party, like a true team. Not one character outshines another, really. All of that led me to be absorbed by the game, truly fully immersed. The ridiculousness of Midgard, the calm of Calm, Mount Corel, Cosmo Canyon, visiting the Gold Saucer. The second time, of course, I had the true date I needed. Tifa's my favorite. I'll be damned, part of me really thought about if Aerith was in that gondola with me on that date. The first disc of Final Fantasy really sucked me in. Oh, and then, it is such a weird thing to experience a big plot twist like this firsthand. One that I've known for years and still get sorely affected by it. Call it empathy for those who experienced it before. Call it my emotions getting sucked into a universe so hard that it blocks out every known unknown. Call it what you want. It is an enigma to me. For it truly hits hard. As Sephiroth monologues about fate or fortune or Flarbernhargum, I felt in tune with Cloud as he tells this bitch to shut the fuck up. Cloud's the player character, who says things and makes choices the player wants, showing little to no emotion the whole way through, allowing for more audience self-insert. This specific point where Cloud interrupts Sephiroth's big villain moment is done without any of us choosing what he says. Cloud himself goes on a whole thing about Aerith being gone, how Cloud's shaking in shock, fingers trembling, eyes burning, raw emotion. It's all from the usually emotional wall we've played as throughout this disc. That's another small thing. After the scene, with a boss fight sandwiched in between, we get a smaller scene, as Cloud becomes more open with who exactly he is to the party. And the message, end of part 1. Back then it was labeled disc 1. That was the second thing I didn't know about. Imagine having to stand up and willingly change the damn disc in your PlayStation after all of that had happened. It, in a way, gives you however much time you want to grieve. Do you really want to walk up all the way to your console and put in disc 2? How much worse can it get? Or how do you get to make it right? In that, I realized I didn't know a second thing. When Aerith dies. In the story, I knew that Aerith dies at the end of Disc 1, but I didn't know that Disc 1 is pretty much half the game, technically, instead of an exact third. Growing up, it went from, oh, Aerith dies probably at the near end of the game, to maybe closer to the beginning, to literally halfway. This is still technically Rising action, people. We're nowhere near done with any of this. There's other angles that I could take with this, but I really wanted to share my experience. With that moment coming, okay, not gone, still present really, I trucked on through discs 2 and 3, and the third thing I didn't know suddenly hit me like a truck. Final Fantasy VII is one of the greatest games of all time. The themes of trauma and healing, loss and gain, birth and death and rebirth, it hits the apex at the loss of Aerith Gainsborough, a character I shoved away knowing her fate. but eventually grew to love, regretting the time spent not with her. I don't think I'm alone in feeling that specific sadness. Hell, there are those before me, long before me, that may feel worse in this regard. It's a moment that teaches us that while death is inevitable, it's the life that mattered. While life and death in this world may be closer than we realize, to us, especially to Cloud in that very moment, the concepts couldn't be further apart. For a fleeting moment, we're reminded that we can always win, but not without cost. For a fleeting moment, the grand scheme, the destination, and the journey don't matter in a roaring refusal to be a stepping stone in someone else's story. For a fleeting moment, Aerith was everybody's favorite.